Nice to see you. If you haven't joined any of the events yet, I jump on here every 2 or 3 months or so to basically give you the download of insights that we're gathering through the Lead with AI program, which is a training program for AI for non-technical business leaders. And this edition, we're going to go through the couple of things that every business leader should know in 2025 when it comes to AI. So let's start to hear from you. Obviously, the most important. What are you currently using most? This could be your kind of like your core LLM or any other AI tool. I see a lot of AI note takers here. So whatever you're using, feel free to let us know in the chat. What tool are you using most? And then in that time, I will guide you through the agenda. So today we're going to be focusing on 5 things that everyone now really needs to know about AI. As always, I'm going to make it super non-technical, super non-pretentious. We're going to make it like very simple. This is AI for business leaders. But the 5 things are: number one, choose the right LLM and upgrade it, get a paid account. Number two is building your AI team. And within that, I'm going to be talking about AI assistants, AI automations, and AI agents. And the future, new ChatGPT features that are currently being deployed that show you where all of this is heading. So let me know in the chat, what are you currently using most? And then just for your information, we always make these as interactive as can be within the short hour that we have. So any questions that come up along the way for any of these 5 topics, feel free to put them in the chat, and I will try to answer them at the end of each segment. So just a little bit about myself, if you're not Alex or some of the other people who already know me. I'm the founder of FlexOS, also the founder of Lead with AI. This originally started last year as kind of something that people were asking to get a bit more information about AI, to maybe get a bit more training on it. We started this and we are now in cohort 7. And then additionally, we also do 2 weekly newsletters on AI. There's a podcast, there's a whole website. Basically, we're putting a lot of information out there around AI, and always from the perspective of how can AI help you to have a better relationship with work, to do more than you were previously capable of. That's what, to me, the promise of AI really is. And so, like I said, these insights are really all coming out of the Lead with AI program, where people like Alex are, working on their AI implementations, where they're getting all the information that they need to become AI masters, even though they may not be technical, even though Alex is. And we've had participants, over 200 participants from companies like McKinsey and Microsoft and Google and Amazon and Atlassian. And it's been a blast to go through everything with everyone and really make people feel comfortable, how, about the topic of AI. And if you have any questions about the program, I see quite a few of our community members here, like Anastasia and others. So you can just ask them in the chat, and I'm sure they can give you the unbridled truth. Now, one thing that's different, because I said we've done a few of these, one thing that's different from previous iterations of this kind of like bi-monthly to quarterly webinar is that there was always this idea of, AI is coming and it's happening, and there are things that you should definitely know, but it seemed to be kind of, optional, and that time is definitely ending. Like, especially if you're running a business, obviously, if you're working in a business, this year we'll see so much acceleration on how AI is taking over the workplace. And I was just coaching a CEO just yesterday. And at the end of it, he said, like, I feel enlightened because I had no idea how much was already happening and how fast it's coming at us. And we're seeing almost on a daily basis how quick things are evolving. And, with 2025 being the year of agents, while most have not even started really fine-tuning their own core AI systems, there is a lot of work to be done. And so I'm very happy to take you on that journey today. So the 5 trends, I want to start with choosing the right LLM for you. So there are so many of these AI models out there, and there are so many tools built on those AI models. Now, we will not go through these 100 tools. You can find them on the site. We track all of the AI for work tools, and see, which one are rising, which one are falling, which one are the ones for you to look at. But there are just like so many AI tools right now. And the truth is that, these tools can be really helpful in a workflow to basically do, let's say, video editing. Now you can use something like Veed, right? Or maybe for PowerPoint presentations, you now use something like Gamma, which a lot of people in the course and the community really love. All of that is possible, and these tools can be very valuable to you. But the truth is that a lot of the things that you really want to get out of AI, you can get them out of the what I would call like the core AI systems or the core LLMs, right? And that could be a ChatGPT or a Copilot or a Claude who dropped a new release yesterday. And these tools really can do anything from, answering questions to creating content to even talking to you in voice, analyzing data, coding, another strong suit of Claude. Like there's just so much that these AIs can do for you, and most of us are overlooking how much you can get out of these tools themselves. Now, there's one thing that I always say when it comes to picking that core AI, and feel free again if you didn't already give that as the answer to the first question to also share in the chat, which one of these core AI systems you're using most. One of the things that we always say is that, the problem is that people are still thinking about AI as technology. Whereas the truth is that AI is really becoming a collaborator, a colleague to all of us. And so when you're thinking about, prompting, which I'm sure quite a few of us do on a daily basis, you're basically asking questions to your collaborator. You're basically telling your new colleague what they should be doing. And so this is something that typically comes quite natural to more senior leaders like yourself. But if we think about AI through the lens of AI as a new colleague, then prompting is not just giving commands, but it's really delegating. And the better you delegate, the better the output is. I think that's all pretty intuitive to us, right? And so therefore, it's really important to give really detailed prompts to delegate really well, where you say, out of all the knowledge that these AIs have, who are you talking to here? So what part of the knowledge do you want it to dive into? What is the thing you're actually trying to accomplish, right? What are maybe some things that you've learned along the way that, you would or wouldn't do as you're trying to achieve that particular objective? And then what should the final output look like? And if you have examples, that's always super, super helpful. And just by prompting differently, you get a lot more out of AI. But again, there are so many of these AI systems now. We were quite familiar, obviously, with ChatGPT. Most of us will know Claude, Gemini, you may have seen from the Google suite. There is Copilot from Microsoft. Now we suddenly have DeepSeek out of China. LeChat out of Europe is still going on. Llama from Meta is working more on the open source side. There are now so many of these models out there. And one thing I would really say today, and it actually almost surprises me that this is not the case, if you have not upgraded yet to a paid account, this is the time. Because even though a lot of these systems are available on a free plan, as you can see here, you definitely don't want to run into limitations of how often you can use these models, because you should really be using these 5 to 10 to 20 times per day. And if you're not, I can guarantee you that you're leaving opportunity on the table to increase the quantity of work, to increase the quality of work, and also increase the joy of the work that you do. So upgrading to a paid version is just so important to not run into these like limitations, but also not to miss out on all these new features, right? And then of course it's up to you to say, I want to do that with ChatGPT. I want to make that my main system. Maybe I want to do it with Claude because it's really good at creative writing and at coding. And maybe I'm going to go, into Gemini or Copilot, which makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about it from the perspective of AI being really nothing, without data. And so AI has, all of these AI systems, they have all the data in the world. They have a lot of knowledge, but it's really you layering on your data that makes it really, really powerful. And that's where, I've been talking about this for quite a while now. I'm just seeing such a win for Gemini and Copilot because they can combine the core knowledge and the core kind of like intellectual capability of the models with your specific data, right? Because everything you do for work will sit either in Gmail plus Docs plus Slide plus maybe chat, or it will sit in Outlook, Teams, in Word, right? And so bringing all that together, that is really where you're going to get the biggest benefit out of AI. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure that you find a AI that works well for you. Make sure you are on the premium version. I see Petra, ChatGPT Plus, very good. Make sure you're on the premium version. And and ensure that again you're getting the most out of this because it is an arms race. These companies are competing against each other, and we are the beneficiaries because we're getting so much more value now for every dollar that we put into AI. So that's a big one to get started. Now, the second one, I want to talk about this kind of like cluster that I mentioned before, which is, all of the assistants and the automations and eventually even agents that will be working for us. If you are missing out, if you're not using, let's say, ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude, minimum 5 to 10 to 20 times per day, really bringing it into everything that you do, you're definitely missing out by not exploring some of these other tools to build a team of AI assistants around you, right? I always, and I was saying to that same CEO, right? Like you got to think about even just like in hiring, right? Or like if you're applying for a role, if there are two candidates that all things being equal look pretty much the same, but one is coming with a team of 10 trained AI agents and the other is coming with some basic AI knowledge, of course you're going to hire the person that is by default going to be 30%, 40% more effective and is going to be able to do a lot more beyond just the core kind of things that they would do in their role. So building out your AI team is the other really big thing that in this day and age you just got to have it done, right? So you haven't figured out yet who your AI is for answering email, who your AI is for doing research, who your AI is for creating content, for all of the detailed workflows that you have in your role, which is obviously personal to you, then this is really the time to do that. And I have a very simple framework for whenever you should pull in one of these tools. The task needs to be general, needs to be error friendly, and needs to be digital and recurring, especially if it's recurring, because if you're doing it a lot and you find yourself using AI a lot, you obviously want to make sure that you are getting the full benefit by tapping AI for it. And there's one way to do it in particular, and then we're really getting into the assistance part of it, which is going through something called a ChatGPT GPT. I know the naming is not maybe the very best, right, Rob? But that's what I ended up calling it. So we'll work with it. But these are basically like customized versions that are assigned to help you with a specific task. So specific workflow you basically have figured out through prompting for a while that this is the right prompt, maybe combined with some information that you have, some file, some document that you have. And then every single time that you use that GPT, it's like calling like that particular AI employee into your quote unquote office and brief them as a coworker. And especially like I work online a lot. So, whether I add mention someone from my team on Slack or on Teams, or I'm add mentioning a GPT, it feels pretty similar. But of course, with a GPT, you get the result back very, very quickly. So yeah, let us know in the chat, like, have you created a GPT? Maybe inspire the rest of the group here with some ideas for GPTs that you could create. But yeah, these are super, super helpful. So again, like if you're thinking about just like all the things that by now you definitely want to have checked off, definitely have, found that like core AI system that you're going to be using a lot, that you're going to put your data into, where you can use all the latest features. Then the next step really is building these AI employees or these AI assistants, right? Where you're basically taking the core LLM, so the core AI system, and you're putting on top of that your own instructions and your own information to make it extra powerful, tailoring it to your workflow. And these GPTs, in a way, we had someone in the group last week who said, hey, wait a minute, now that I understand what they are they nothing but shortcuts to prompting AI? And yeah, actually, that's exactly what it is. It's a combination of a really good prompt with a particular knowledge base. But again, it's now cemented in this thing that you can call in at any time and without having to do the prompting and giving the context and giving the knowledge that you normally would need, you now can basically just like bring them in, assign them the task, and they will do it, right? And so for me, I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet, guys. It's supposed to be interactive. Rob, everyone, Crystal, what are your GPTs? What have you created so on? I know that at least the people from our group have created some GPTs, so let people know what you've created it for. Going to be super helpful. So I'll share mine. I'll start. I'm using these GPTs for, creating the newsletters, doing research, helping in sales conversations, creating LinkedIn copy. Like there's so many ways that I can use these GPTs to be much more effective. And now OpenAI has even launched something called projects, which, makes kind of like takes that idea and makes it even more powerful. So you may want to look in that too. But just as an example, again, it's a shortcut. Okay, very good, Anastasia, Crystal, perfect. Just as a shortcut to, again, like editing a newsletter, that's a very frequent process for me, right? I have to do it almost every week. So, I want to submit that to an editor. I don't have a human editor, right? So I'm basically submitting it to a GPT and I'm saying, look, imagine that you are the managing editor at HBR. I'm going to send you a draft of an article and I basically want you to roast me. I want you to tell me what I did wrong and give me some ideas of how to improve it, right? Now I have that just like available to me 24/7 at any time. I can put some content in and it knows immediately what to do. And perfect for work goals, action items. Yeah, there's like so many applications. Again, it is very similar to just prompting the AI, but now you have that shortcut where you don't have to explain what the AI should be doing, which role it should be taking on, and what particular data from you it should be focused on. So it can be super, super helpful. You can now also do this in Copilot. So if you're on Teams, you can create a Copilot agent. Now we'll talk about why that's a terrible name. But you can create a Copilot agent directly in Teams. It looks very similar to setting up a GPT. And we have a detailed instruction if you want kind of like a step-by-step guide. But what you really want to get doing, you want to build your own AI team. So you want to be able to say, I have, 10, 15, 20 of these AIs working for me. And one agent does this, or one assistant does this, and one automation does this. And you're basically building out this entire group of kind of like virtual coworkers that are helping you with every part of your job. Okay, so can do it in Copilot. You can do it in ChatGPT, and you can also do it in Gemini. They call them gems. In Claude, you can do it under projects. There are basically like many, many, many ways to do it. But think about something that you frequently do that again is general, that is digital, and it's not something you particularly enjoy or a task that technically you could outsource to AI, but you don't want to outsource it because you learn a lot from it. I heard that's from someone in the group a couple of weeks ago. But if you have those tasks, then you gotta force yourself, maybe plan a couple of hours this weekend, sit down and build these GPTs, right? Create this team of AIs that surround you and help you with all the work that you do. And you have a lot of great examples from Henry, Anastasia, Crystal, and others in the chat of what you could be creating. So build that entire team around you, right? And then if you're running a company or you're running a team, just imagine how powerful you are going to be with those AIs around you, and then multiply that by the number of people on your team or the number of people in your company, and you can see the real benefit. Now, from these assistants, we're going to go to AI automations. And again, feel free to jump in with any questions along the way. Happy to answer. But for now, let's talk a little bit about automations, because if the AI assistants were very helpful in sort of like getting a shortcut to basically a prompt and a knowledge base, meaning that you can tap into that AI virtual coworker at any time without having to give any context, having to explain anything. The AI automations basically take it to the next level. And I would say just kind of like for benchmarking, most people have done step one and two, found their core AI, starting to build a team of AI, AI tools around them and build some of these like GPTs or these AI assistants. This is something that most people are still kind of working on or looking into, but it's incredibly powerful. So we have a bunch of these running right now in the team, and I would say that our team of 10, what is it, 9 or 10 people, super AI first. Everyone is always looking at opportunities to just delegate more work to AI. And so again, like when you have something recurring and you basically have found that in prompting AI or even in working with your GPTs, that you almost feel like I don't even need to be involved anymore, or at least I don't need to be involved in the start. You can now build these automations, right? So I have a couple of automations running. I have a chief of staff automation running. I have a kind of like a sales reply and proposal maker running. We've done things with the group, for example, generating proposals automatically, generating emails or sorry, invoices automatically, doing automatic follow-ups. So like screening emails for a particular topic and then drafting replies right into your mailbox. We've done a bunch of these automations, and again, they're truly a little bit daunting up front, but like once they're running, it's really fantastic. And that's why I always say, both with GPTs and with automations, at the end of the day, it is very similar to training new people, onboarding new people. They're not going to be super effective from day one. They're not going to do exactly what you want from day one. There's always a bit of an onboarding period. There's always a bit of trial and error, but eventually they will give you the thing that you want, and then hopefully it will run for a very long time. So let's take a look at these AI automations, which again is just another level up. Again, you're rising in complexity, but you're definitely also rising in impact. And I'll already ask here in the chat, who has started or who has built their AI automations, right? If you have launched anything, again, give the group here a little insight into what people should be thinking about when it comes to these AI automations. Now, the way to think about it, just generally, like in principle, is that normally when you assign work to a coworker or a virtual AI coworker, the trigger is usually you go and instruct something or someone to do. The case with these AI automations, that trigger basically happens automatically. So it could be something like you receive a new email, or a new field is added into a sheet or into a database, or like some action happens. There are so many triggers to choose from, but some action happens, and that then basically triggers an automation to run. And then the actions basically follow that trigger, right? So platforms like Zapier, Make, N8N, there's many others now. Some of them been around for quite a while, and they were actually doing automation, just kind of like stitching together different apps for quite a while. But the killer app here is that you can now include that AI brain. So you can now basically bring the AI, the core LLM, you can bring it into your automations, and that allows you to set up automations like the one that we just did with the group this week. AI will just read all the emails, or all the emails with a certain label, or all the emails from a certain sender, and will, through its AI brain, understand what that email is about and whether or not it falls within certain categories for it to then take an action or not. For example, reference some knowledge and draft a reply right in your inbox. So there's so many things you can do with this. The opportunities are really quite endless. But this is just one example that we have running. This is a proposal maker. So we did this with Zapier. I see that Henry is on Make. We did this one on Zapier. So in this case, we basically say sometimes you have, maybe like a sales call. At the end of that sales call, you're going to have a transcript, right? So hopefully you're using AI note takers. You're having a transcript, and you put that transcript into a folder, let's say. So now the automation knows that's your trigger, that hey, there's a new transcript into this folder. That means I should start my automation. So in this case, it goes from that step to step number two, which is conversation with the system, which is basically it talking to a version of ChatGPT. And it will take that transcript and then do with it whatever you have instructed. So very similar to building those GPTs. But now that first part, basically, you didn't have to get involved. It happened automatically. So then you have your conversation with the assistant. It basically will give a reply. We're reformatting that. We're putting it into a new Word document or in a new Google Docs. And then we're sending ourselves a message that says, hey, there's a new proposal ready. So we've turned the sales transcript into a draft proposal. I can now review the proposal, maybe edit a little bit and send it out. And so again, the amount of time that I would have spent on thinking about what I should put in the proposal and remembering what was said in the call and then linking that with the services that we offer. The fact that I just now get a message and says, proposal is ready, like go have a look, that's pretty amazing, right? And so again, just not only the time that you're saving, but just kind of the joy that you get out of the work that you can do when you're not focused on these quite menial, repetitive tasks. So a lot of power there. And so now we're getting to, the fourth out of these like five key AI trends that you really need to know about. And this is probably the one that everyone now is kind of looking at of like, oh, I should know something about this, right? You saw one of my first slide was 2025 is going to be the year of agentic, right? Well, what is that really? And the truth is that this is from Ali Miller. Like the truth is that it's very messy. People are conflating the two, they're confusing the two. There are companies explicitly trying to kind of jump on the agent hype and saying that things are agent without them necessarily being agents. But the thing to think about in order to try and somehow distinguish the assistants from the automations from the agents is that in an automation, again, we saw that, right? A certain trigger happens, the trigger that you set, and then it follows a list of steps. And in one of those steps, it will call a large language model. So in my example just now, we had basically the trigger happens, it then goes to talk to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT basically takes the transcript of the sales call in our example and turns it into a proposal, right? That's very linear in a way, but it is using AI. Now, an AI agent is different in the sense that it has more of kind of like an autonomous spirit to it. It will take a goal, but it itself will determine the steps to get there. And so now you're going from, let's say, a fairly junior or somewhat pleasing employee who will just do whatever you say and just do it in the way that you've prescribed it to a really, really smart employee who will take that goal and say, well, if that's what I'm supposed to be doing, these are the steps to get there. And so that's basically what an AI agent does, very different from what we've seen so far. And so in the actual, right, because Microsoft is misusing that term agent a little bit when you're just creating simple GPTs in Teams, but in the actual Microsoft Copilot Agent Studio, you can see examples of that. You can see examples like a team navigator, a help desk, a travel FAQ. It basically is really taking inputs from the user, putting, of course, its LLM onto it, but it can route in all kinds of really clever ways so that the true problem gets solved. Now, one of those examples is that help desk agent, right? So like instead of like talking to someone, typing to someone and just getting an answer, it can use the model's reasoning to really think through what is the right solution for the problem here. And it will even report to you if you're building these agents, it will even report back to you like how many times was it able to actually find that information, or where maybe do you have some blind spots where you need to create more info. Now, again, another, workflow slash agent, it's all a little bit blurry here. But another great example is Salesforce. Salesforce launched a service called Einstein SDR Agent, and you basically just give it a list of people to reach out to, and it will then customize a message for each one of those people. It will send that message to them, and it will reply to their responses. It will follow up if they didn't reply, and they will basically do that until a call has been booked. So this is literally now the equivalent of a human SDR, sales development rep. They're going after long lists, and they're going, sending emails and sending messages on LinkedIn, and maybe if they're brave enough, even cold calling. Now this SDR agent does that all autonomously. And then it just hands you the booked meeting at the end. And Salesforce is even doing some really smart things, and we can definitely all expect a lot more spam, yes, for sure. They're doing some really smart things, like, for example, changing the pricing model to not say you have to pay this much per month or per seat or whatever. No, we're going to actually do pricing for success or pricing for outcome. So this is now also going to change the model, right? You see as intercom, $1 per AI resolution, right? So you can now think about, okay, this is now starting to become truly a replacement of a role that humans previously would have held. And that's why I'm saying I'll pause this one. That's why I'm saying, like, we've been talking about AI for a while. We've all been working with AI in some way or another. But this is really where AI now is going to be unavoidable, and where the disruption will happen so quickly, and where things will go so much faster than what we've even seen until now, that you really cannot afford to stay on the sidelines anymore. This really is the time where we need to understand AI, and we need to have these AI team members, because again, that's where the world is heading. And again, talking sometimes to people who have thousands or tens of thousands of employees, these impacts are going to be massive, right? The way that your org chart is going to look like, there will be a time, obviously, when there are going to be more AI employees in your organization than there are humans, right? Because everyone comes with this whole team of agents or this team of assistants, right? So you're really going to see a lot of disruption here, and especially this part of the agentic movement, right? It was always nice that we can automate, that we can shortcut the work. But the moment that these AIs are starting to have their own decision-making process and being able to problem solve on a very different level, that's really where things start to change, right? And this is an example from Google. They just launched it a couple of days ago. It's an AI scientist. Again, you can see here the schematics of how it doesn't just do one linear job. It goes to different agents who all split up the job and then come back with a research plan and a list of ideas. So you're going to see much more of this sort of like branching of here's a task, and here's normally you just go to execution into much more of a dynamic play. And besides, can we expect more spend? Yes. If there are already questions, right? I'm trying not to rush through it, but like if there are any questions, just please let me know, and we have plenty of time to really go through it. The last thing I want to just say, kind of like as this briefing of like what do you need to be aware of? What is something that you need to be, kind of like working on already. I showed this to some of the community members, but there's now going to be again such an acceleration in terms of the new features that we will see in the tools that we're using. So Claude just dropped a new model, which they kind of call a hybrid model between the traditional way of working with an LLM and the more reasoning focused models that have been dropping, like ChatGPT o1, or even like the new DeepSeek model, where the AI is taking a lot more time to reply and through that giving better replies. We're now going to see a lot of acceleration in the amount of work that AI can do, the quality of work that it will do, and some of these features they really showcase that. So I think is a good place to kind of end. And so there are a bunch of new features that we went through in a recent session for the group. But the two that really stand out are our operator and deep research. And I presented even then in the context of this blog post that Sam just wrote like 2 weeks ago. And he said, and this is, I think, where we really have to pause. He said, imagine AI as a real but relatively junior virtual coworker, right? That's everything we've been talking about in the first 30 minutes here. So you get the idea, right? Okay, fine. It's a new digital coworker. I should delegate to them, not prompt to them. I should work with them. I should train them. I should fine tune them. I should really make them my own so that I have my personal army of AI assistants, right? Fine. Okay, he's saying, yeah, but okay, but now imagine that you have 1,000 of them, right? Or that you have 1 million of them, right? And now imagine that you have agents in every field of knowledge work. And then he says that anyone in 2035 should be able to marshal the intellectual capacity equivalent to everyone in 2025. So just in 10 years from now, everyone will have access to the amount of intellectual capacity that one single person or that everyone here today has. And so again, the way to think about that, right? This is obviously an incredible thing to have. But I'm so worried, as people who know me know, about the increasing gap that you're going to start to see between people who get it and people who don't get it. So even though we could say, maybe similar to the internet, that like this is completely democratic because everything is available to everyone. Well, first of all, the paid models are much stronger than what you get on free plans. And second of all, if people are not on top of this now, if they're not catching up on this now, and it is accelerating to such a degree, by the time we arrive here, there definitely will be a huge gap in, again, the people that get it and have learned along the way how to really work with AI and the people who don't. So I think you're going to see a pretty big gap and a really big opportunity for people who, even at this stage, say, okay, I'm gonna step in now and use these AIs. So Henry is asking, what is the learning curve to learn and apply AI agents? Well, I'll show you the learning curve is basically zero, which is kind of like, again, this is part of like the scary part of it, right? Like it's doing all the thinking for you. So it's not like you have to think about how to use it well. It's actually doing all the thinking for you, but you gotta be playing with it. You gotta try it, right? So the first one I want to show you, which, again, like it's the one that I find really, really interesting. And again, it's currently only available on the $200 ChatGPT Pro plan. So, you gotta dig in the old wallet a little bit. Sam is saying that it's coming to free plans as well, so we should be relieved. But it's a feature called Deep Research where you can really see this kind of agentic layer at work. So it's basically an autonomous researcher. So it's just a button in ChatGPT. I'll show you in just a second. It's just a button that you can like switch on, just like how you use maybe web search if you used that before. And you can just input a prompt, and then Deep Research will ask some questions back, which is very different from like normally in ChatGPT. We'll just go and do the job. It will ask some questions back, and then it will use its reasoning model and its web capabilities to basically put together an entire research report. So just like a really smart employee, or maybe you could say even like a consultant or a team of consultants, it would try and understand the task. It would go off and, do its first search on that topic, and then it's learning from the data that it's gathering. So I don't know, like I did strategy and research for about 15 years. So like I know this process, and I'm just seeing AI do it. Like it's doing my job right before my eyes. It's taking, again, like part of the instruction. It's going to do one search. It's going to read an article. It's going to learn from that. It's then going to come up with a couple of new ideas of other things to research. And then it could be working for like 5, 10 to 30 minutes, and then comes back with a research report that can have, tens or hundreds of sources. So I'll just quickly show you here on in the live how it works. So you can just see how, again, it really doesn't take much. Oh, sorry, I got to go to my other browser window. I have this on my other account. Oh, chat GPT. So I'll just show you. Yes, exactly. Rob, you're completely right, right? That's the beauty of where things are today, like whether you have that tech experience or not, it's now available to everyone. But again, it is available to people who are taking advantage, right? I think that's the big difference. And again, that's why I said from the beginning, right? And Rob and Anastasia and others will attest, right? Like I'm never trying to get too deep into the technical side, because I think the beauty of this is that it works in human language, right? That's the big difference from all the technology that came before this. But so I'm here in ChatGPT. I'm just clicking the deep research button, and I could now commission it to write me a research report about any topic. So anyway, I said I would keep it interactive, so I'll let someone from the group suggest a topic to research. Now this could be dangerous. Put something in the chat. I'm not saying like I'll do the first one that I see, because who knows how crazy people will get. But anything that comes to mind, what would you like to see researched? We're gonna get AI to do it. Coffee's in Seattle. For sure, it's gonna ask you some follow-up questions, Rob. Well, what do you mean with top coffee? Okay. If no other suggestion, I'm gonna do it. Okay. Okay, there you go. Hey, Rob asked the question. Top coffees. I'm assuming you mean coffee shops, right? Okay, there we go. So I had this before where sometimes if you don't choose the right model, it will not do it, even though the button is there. So we just submit it again. Same problem. I now have recognized like when it's actually the deep research feature replying to me. Yeah, this is the one. Oh, so this is basically when it goes directly into the answer. So let's try it one more time. And to to the point earlier, yeah, that's what I mean when I say just play with it, because sometimes it will work. Henry also said it. Just play with it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Um, anything is okay. Okay, so now basically deep research is actually working. So it's taking here specifically the kind of like prompt. And of course, normally you would write a much more descriptive prompt of the particular thing you want to have researched. It will then again give you a bunch of follow-up questions where you can, usually your initial instructions weren't all that great. So you can basically answer with, like the details of like where you want to zoom in. And obviously, I'm just saying like anything is okay here. And based on that, the AI agent will then go to work. So what we're going to be seeing here is that in the research, and we'll come back in a little bit, we'll see actually the output. It's now going out and it's going to be doing the research. So again, I'm gathering info, I'm crafting a numbered list, and I start by searching for best coffee shops in Seattle. So now, based on that, it has found this like blog and it's reading that. Oh, it seems that, there are different types. Now I'm going to do another search. I'm going to read this article. Oh, now I've learned something new. I'm going to read this article. It's doing another search. It's reading another article. It's clicking on websites. Basically doing all of the detailed work that normally us as humans would do. Okay, so we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this in a little bit. But that is the wonder that's called deep research. And again, it is coming to free plans as well as the plus plan. So before we come back to that report and see what it came up with, and then give Rob the answer because he's still waking up in Seattle and he needs a coffee. We'll go to another tool. So this is the other one launched right around the same time, and it's called Operator. So Operator is basically an AI that can use the web as if it's a human. Ironically, it's always asking you to do the CAPTCHA, so maybe that's something that they've built in. And basically, what it's doing, if you've ever tried, if you're, for example, if you're stuck on a website, maybe I have some people in the group who are trying to manage their WordPress website, or maybe I have to work in meta ads, which can be very confusing. If you're stuck, you can sometimes just take a screenshot and say, I'm stuck here, what should I do? Or it's giving me this error message, what should I do? That's basically how this model works. So it opens a browser window for you. It then does a search or it goes to a website and then we'll see that screen, meaning it's taking a screenshot, understanding it, seeing everything that's on the screen, and then take action. So, for example, if you say, like, order me some eggs on Instacart, it will go to Instacart, it will see the website, it will see a browse feature, and it knows from, like, again, if you would submit that to ChatGPT 4.0, it would know that typically that's is where you can find product the quickest, right? So then it will go and type in eggs and it will show you the options and then it will basically order and then, like you can give it your credit card and all of that. So it's literally operating a browser for you. And this gets around some of the limitations of AI so far, where, it couldn't go beyond just kind of like pulling in information and giving you answers in text or maybe even in visuals. Now it's actually operating, being the operative word here, operating a browser for you, right? So again, just imagine how different things are when you can give an agent the order to take a really complex process like doing online shopping or booking a trip or updating a CRM. I use it to update HubSpot. It works perfectly. Or editing your WordPress, right? So just imagine what happens when you can give that order to an agent. And so here you can actually see, I'll just mute this and kind of narrate. So here you can see operator. They're basically saying, I want to do something in Instacart. They're choosing to do, I think he has like some kind of a shopping list of sorry if I'm making you hungry if you just woke up. But I think he has some kind of a shopping list. So he's going to type in, like what he wants the AI to shop for. Could you find a recipe of linguine with clams? And then shop for it. Right? So basically now he's instructing the AI to go and find the recipe. And then what you basically will see is that, sorry, we're still in the prompt here. So this is basically what you will see is that it's going to open up a browser. It's going to Instacart in this case. It's loading the actual Instacart website, and it's then going to be taking actions on that website. So in this case, they're doing the recipe first, right? It's going to take the actions on that site. So including like finding things, putting it into the shopping basket, um, basically doing everything all the way up to you checking out. And so it can do all of that. And it's showing you, again, similar to what we just saw from deep research, showing you step by step all of the different actions it's taking. So it really is like a sequence of all of the things that you would have done manually, where it's like you're looking at a screen, you're like, oh, I guess that's where the search bar is. Let me go there. Let me click that. Everything you're seeing here is done by AI, just by at every step taking a screenshot, understanding it, then taking an action like typing in, hitting search, going to checkout, etc., etc. So all of that can now be done by AI. So that's where, I really think that we're starting to get a picture of this year, you know, 2022, ChatGPT was launched. Of course, it became a hit quite quickly. A lot of people used it to write, a poem or a piece of content. To, 2023, a little bit more companies were getting into it. Last year, definitely companies were starting to take it seriously. There was at least some experiments going on. But this year, the way that the capabilities of AI are expanding and accelerating, and the amount of things that AI now can do, you're going to see a real big shift in how urgent it's going to be for individuals like us to really understand it and to use it to our advantage, and for companies to really catch up. So I'll just quickly check on the chat if there's any questions, and obviously I will show you the output as well of the research report. Um, Brian, oh, welcome back, Brian. How can we manage AI adoption in situations where organizations have not enabled enterprise AI tools versus working on a subscription AI engine? So, hey, Brian, like this is a huge, again, I mean, anywho, this is a common, this is like what I'm hearing most, right? Where companies are way slower than individuals. So even mid last year, Microsoft and LinkedIn did a study that showed that 67% of people were BYOAI, bringing their own AI tools to work with all of the security implications that come with that. So what you're going to be seeing is that companies are way slower because they don't know what to do, kind of like at a total company level. Should we really pay for everyone to use, let's say, ChatGPT Enterprise, $60 per month, or Copilot, $30 per month? Are we going to see ROI? Is it going to work? And all that time, individual employees, especially if you see features like the one you just saw, like imagine how much work you can outsource to AI if you just spend a little bit of time setting up some assistants, like building a couple of automations and training these agents. Employees are going to be running way faster. And so for leadership, this is really the big question, right? Like, how do we roll this out? How do we basically get our organization to be 10 times more competitive because we have everyone here has a team of 10 or 15 AIs around them? Like, how can I roll that out without, again, like, like the difficulty of if I just give everyone Copilot today, it's not like people understand how to use it or where the opportunities are. So that's not going to be enough, right? So you got to really look at it from a like person to person perspective. And that's why I always think it really starts at the top. There's a great case study between OpenAI and Moderna, where basically the CEO said, we are competing with these kind of like healthcare companies, these pharma companies that are like way bigger than us. So we got to be the ones that are smarter. And they did a partnership with OpenAI really early on. I think it was like early mid last year, and they said everyone now is going to be a top priority to build these GPTs. That was their whole project, like almost a year ago, right? And so then you see where some other companies stand now. And they built 750 GPTs over the course of just a few weeks. And they had AI adoption up to 100%, even in teams like legal. And that became, an urgency that came from the leadership. And he, the CEO, would go in town halls and tell people where he's applying AI and where it's working, but also where it's not working, right? He's also honest in like I tried this, maybe I tried deep research first time didn't work. I had to go back and then it worked, right? But like using it, sharing it. But the truth is like everyone needs to get their own aha moment. And that's the big thing that like we're just not seeing yet, that everyone has even just experienced the power of AI drafting a really tailored email reply for you. Wow, that's a lot of work out of my hands. AI doing a bit of research for you. AI writing your slides for you, right? If you haven't had that first aha moment, maybe you tried ChatGPT really early on and it just gave you, again, a silly little poem or something. If you haven't seen how valuable it is in business and how you basically can scale yourself tenfold by using these tools, if you don't get to those aha moments, it's really, really hard to push it sustainably on people. Very, very different. Very, very difficult. Oh, you're not seeing the screen. Okay, anyway, then I will switch. Then I will switch. So light bulbs and eggs. Good, we're bringing it back to real life. Yeah, and Sam, yeah. Hey, nice to see you. Yeah, yeah. Gemini Deep Research was actually deep research before OpenAI launched their deep research. And yeah, it's been a great tool as well. Perplexity also has launched their deep research, so everyone is kind of competing now on deep research. The outputs, as I've seen some comparisons, like the outputs of ChatGPT are definitely of higher quality. It seems to be definitely like a lot less generic, and they seem to really have engineered a little bit more on creating that final research report. But yeah, like I said, like they're all going to compete, and that's why going back to step number one, you got to pick one of these and kind of like make the bet that that's going to be your core AI team for or core AI tool for the long run. Because again, the more data you give to these tools, the more personalized they become, and the more you get out of them, right? So again, like playing around with it, great. And then eventually just like choosing one, upgrading, and like making all of that work for you. And yeah, like Rob, exactly like you said, right? It's like learning and enjoying an instrument, right? It's like you're not gonna start from zero and doing a world tour in 5 days, but you got to start playing basic drum beats, right? To get to eventually, being a world-class rock star. You just gotta start. I think, play around with it, start with it. There's a lot that can be done and should be done as well. Okay, I'm gonna try and yeah, you're totally right. You didn't see my screen earlier, so let me go back to our top Seattle coffees because that's where we that's where we were. And let's see what AI come up with. So now I will show you then what we missed the last time. Apologies for that. Should be coming up now. And here we go. Okay, now you're definitely seeing it. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, so here you can see basically, so just scroll up. So here I gave the original prompt. I got a question back. I said, okay, just anything is okay. And then it did research for 7 minutes. It pulled in 23 sources. And so here on the left-hand side, you can see, or on the right-hand side, you can see the entire process of I'm trying to gather this. I'm doing a search. I'm finding this article. That teaches me about other things I should be researching. I'm doing another search. I'm reading another article. And eventually it pulled in 23 sources and created this detailed report with all the sources linked. And I will send this to at least to Rob so that he can go and get a great coffee, or maybe can tell us where AI got it wrong. So that is what you can get out of deep research. And again, just like such a good example of where the world is heading. So I'll just kind of end there. I'll see if there's like another one or two questions, and